Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will show you how to create and use a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. So let's get started. Before creating a pivot table, let's first understand our data. In this worksheet, we have a table containing employee sales information. The first column is employee name. It shows the names of all employees. The second column is department. It tells us which department each employee belongs to, such as HR or IT. The third column is month. It shows the month in which the sales were made. The fourth column is sales. It contains the sales amount. This type of data is called tabular data, where each row represents one record and each column contains one type of information. This is the kind of data that works best with pivot tables. Now we need to select the complete data. Make sure you select all the rows and columns including the column heading. The headings are very important because Excel uses them as field names in the pivot table. If you forget to include the headings, your pivot table may not work correctly. Also check that there are no completely blank rows or blank columns inside the data. Blank rows or columns can cause to treat your data as a separate tables. After checking everything, select the complete data. After selecting the data, go to the Insert tab on the ribbon. Click on the Insert tab. Inside the Tables group, you will find the Pivot Table button. Click on the Pivot Table. A dialog box called Create Pivot Table now appears. The first option is the table or range. Excel automatically fills this box with the range of the selected data. If the correct range is shown, you don't need to make any changes. Below that, you will see two location options. The first option is New Worksheet. If you select this option, Excel creates the pivot table on a new worksheet. This is the recommended option because it keeps your original data separate. The second option is Existing Worksheet. If you choose this option, you will need to specify the exact cell where you want the pivot table to appear. For beginners, select New Worksheet. Now click OK. After clicking OK, Excel creates a new worksheet. On the left side, you will see an empty pivot table. On the right side, you will see the pivot table feeds pane. This pane contains all the column names from your original data. In our example, we can see employee name, department, month, and sales. Below the field names, there are four different areas. These are filters, columns, rows, and values. These four areas decide how your pivot table will display the data. Let's understand each one in detail. Let's start with the rows area. The rows are displays data vertically. To understand this, click and hold the department field. Now drag it into the rows area and release it. As soon as you do this, the pivot table automatically displays all department names one below another. Notice that each department appears only once. Even if the same department appears many times in the original data, pivot table combines them automatically. This makes the report clean and easy to read. Now let's calculate the sales. Click and hold the sales field and drag it into the values area. Excel automatically performs a calculation. Since the sales contain numbers, Excel chooses sum by default. Now we can see the total sales of each department. This calculation happens automatically. You don't need to write any formulas. If your column contains numbers, Excel usually select a sum. If your column contains text, Excel may select count. Now let's organize the report month-wise. Click on the month field, drag it into the column area. Immediately, the pivot table changes. Now every month appears as a separate column. For each department, Excel displays the sales for January, February, March, April, and other months. The columns area is used whenever you want to display information horizontally. Now let's learn about filters. Click and hold the employee's name field, drag it into the filters area. At the top of the pivot table, you will now see a filter drop down. Click the drop down arrow. A list of all employees appears. Select any one employee. Then click OK. Now the pivot table displays data only for that employee. If you want to see all employees again, open the filter and select all. By default, Excel is showing the sum of sales, but sometimes we need average, count, maximum, or minimum. To change the calculation, right click any value inside the pivot table. Move your mouse over summarize values by. A list appears. Let's understand these options. Sum adds all numbers together. Count counts how many records are available. Average calculates the average value. Max shows the highest value. Min shows the lowest value. Choose average. Now the report changes from total sales to average sales. Let's suppose we change a sales value in the original worksheet. Notice that the pivot table does not update automatically. To update it, click anywhere inside the pivot table. Right click, then click refresh. Now Excel recalculates the data and the pivot table shows the latest values. Whenever you make changes in your original data, always remember to refresh the pivot table. Now click anywhere inside the pivot table. As soon as you click inside it, two new tabs appear on the ribbon. Pivot table, Analyze and Design. Click on the Design tab. The Design tab is used to change the appearance and layout of the pivot table. Let's understand each option one by one. First, Report Layout. First, click on Report Layout. Here you will see three options. First, Show in compact form. It displays all row fields in a single column. This is the default layout and saves space. Second, Show in outline form. It displays each row field in a separate column, making the report easier to read. Third is Show in tabular form. It displays each row field in a separate column, similar to a normal Excel table. This layout is useful when you want to copy or filter the data. Second, Grand Totals. Now click on Grand Totals. Grand totals display the overall total of your pivot table. You can choose off for rows and columns to hide all grand totals. Second, on for rows and columns. It shows grand totals for both rows and columns. Third, on for rows only. It display the grand total only for rows. Fourth, on for columns only. It display the grand total only for columns. Third, banded rows and banded columns. Now look at banded rows and banded columns. When you enable banded rows, every alternate row is shaded, making the report easier to read. When you enable banded columns, every alternate column is shaded. You can turn these options on or off depending on your preference. Fourth, pivot table styles. On the right side, you will see pivot table styles. These are ready-made designs that instantly change the appearance of your pivot table. Move your mouse over any style to preview it. Click on the style you like to apply. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.